Dear President Fithian, at its meeting on May 4th, 2023, the Planning Commission reviewed an application for a zoning text amendment that proposed amending the Kent County Land Use Ordinance in order to revise the permitted maximum heights for industrial structures in the Employment Center, industrial and commercial zoning districts in the Route 301 corridor. Following discussion, the Planning Commission voted to provide an unfavorable recommendation to the county commissioners on the proposed zoning text amendment, citing that although the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan in Maryland critical area law, the Planning Commission did not find that a public need had been demonstrated since the gains to the public in the county do not significantly outweigh detriments to the public. The Planning Commission further recommended that the county commission introduce a zoning text amendment that allows for a special exception for heights in industrial, commercial, and employment center zoning districts. Sincerely, Joe Hickman, Chairman. We heard from Joe. Here's one from John Carroll, Mayor of Galena. We heard from him. We heard from the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy. Here's one from the Chamber of Commerce of Kent County. Letter of support for Kent County zoning text amendment. Dear Commissioners, the Kent County Chamber of Commerce has voted unanimously by our Board of Directors, enthusiastically supports the proposed zoning text amendment that would regulate the permitted height of industrial structures in the 301 corridor. The mission of the Chamber is to support the businesses of Kent County by serving our members in ways that enhance our business community, and the zoning text amendment would have a positive impact on the local business community. Allowing a larger structure would give Kent County a much greater opportunity for economic development, as well as an account for changes in automated fulfillment technology, which requires this update to previous regulations. As one of the two targeted areas in Kent County outside of municipal limits, it is ideally located to attract new businesses, jobs, and opportunities to the county and complies with the comprehensive plan. The Chamber further requests that you consider raising the building height for all industrial structures located in the two identified areas on both industrial and employment center zoned parcels. The Chamber also fully supports defining the 301 corridor in the land use ordinance. The Kent County Chamber of Commerce strongly supports the proposed zoning text amendment and will do everything we can to support responsible development and growth. Thank you for the opportunity to offer support for this change. Signed, Sarah King, Executive Director. Kent Forward, we heard from. Economic Development and Economic and Tourism Development Commission, we heard from Mr. McLeod. Here's one from Kate Gray. Hello, Commissioners. I promise that I'm not here to beat a dead horse, as I know that you received my thoughts by way of Kent Forward as well. However, I must personally make my opinion known on the text amendment regarding the height increase prior to the hearing. I will unfortunately not be able to attend the meeting, but please take into account that we need these types of changes in order to grow and prosper. The positive impact speaks for itself. This is a specified area with appropriate zoning and does not put the county at risk for structures with increased height being in unsuitable areas. If this is not passed, we are putting yet another nail in the coffin of being a business-friendly county, and that coffin already has too many nails. Signed, Kate Gray. Joanne Rich, Jim and Joanne Rich from Rock Hall from Huntingfield Creek. I, as president of the Kent County Lodging Association, and we as small business owners would like to assert our support of the text amendment regarding height of future building in the 301 corridor. Kent County is in desperate need of new business growth for sustainability, and it is time to stop stifling any progress towards this end. We would be happy to speak to this if it would be helpful. Respectfully, Joanne and Jim Rich, East Neck Island Road. Here's Mr. Bill Fluke. I'm writing to express my strong support for the warehouse project in the 301 corridor near Millington, including the proposed height increase, which is the subject of this hearing. This project is an example of how Kent County can facilitate responsible economic development within the areas zoned for that purpose, while preserving the current strong protections which we have established for our farmland. I would be here today to speak in person on this matter if it were at all possible for me to do so. And economic development is sorely needed here. Kent County desperately needs the increased revenues which this project will bring. As a strong advocate for our public schools, I have participated in all of the public deliberations conducted by our Board of Education regarding next year's budget. It has been really painful to see the cuts which have become necessary. Due to the gap between the needs of our schools and the funds available to meet them, and despite your worthy efforts to help meet those needs, Kent County's ability to adequately fund our schools is sorely limited to the serious budget shortfalls which you are now facing at the county level. Signed, Mr. Bill Fluke. Aaron Bramble from Tolchester Marina. Unfortunately, I will not be in the area the day of the June 13th meeting, and thus am writing to express my support for the proposed zoning text amendment that would increase building heights to 60 feet in designated areas of 301. The county's long desired to take advantage of the 301 corridor as a development area that has direct access to the Upper Shore's main artery and can support and concentrate industrial and commercial activity that benefits intra and interstate commerce. Passing this text amendment will make the permitting process simpler for businesses that wish to locate in this area and make the area more attractive for potential developers, businesses, and residents. Building requirements and sizes for large operations are changing as business modernize, and it is essential that Kent County attempt to keep abreast of these changes if we wish to maintain competitive with other districts when attracting businesses and pursuing economic development opportunities. We can achieve this with care by focusing on an area like the corridor, which is primed for a new type of growth by way of distribution, warehousing, and logistics. We also already have precedents for buildings of this height and above in Kent County, including supplementary buildings in the ag zone as well as some buildings in our towns. Passing this change for the corridor would allow us to concentrate large-scale development in an area that makes more sense and, as stated above, is more attractive for businesses as it gives them direct access to a major trucking route. Signed, Aaron Bramble, Tolchester Marina. Please heed the County Planning Commission's conclusion that the zoning text amendment is not in the public's best interest. It seems to me giving builders the right to construct taller buildings without any restrictions is counter to the county's careful and effective planning and land use strategies. It's also prudent to learn from other jurisdictions that did not institute specific development plans concerning mega warehouses and are now regretting their decisions. I'm particularly concerned that the proposal does not seem to add significant job opportunities, but will increase impervious surfaces, noise, air, and water pollution, let alone potential decreased property values and increased costs for the county, as they will need to provide infrastructure and fire protection for these facilities. The negatives sure seem to outweigh any positives. Signed, Elizabeth Peterson, Orchard Drive, Chestertown, Maryland. Cindy, just a couple of quick things. I'm a real estate broker who has listed and sold 3 industrial employment center land parcels in Route 301 Growth Corridor. During the last 3 years of marketing these properties, I have communicated with more than 30 prospective buyers and agents. Prospective buyers included developers, data center and warehousing companies, and High-Tech International Agricultural Corporation. All these companies expressed a need for building heights in excess of 45 feet. Kent County needs every competitive advantage possible to attract these businesses. Please approve the 60-foot height limit zoning text amendment and the employment center and industrial zoning districts of the Route 301 corridor. Yours truly, Cindy Genther, Maryland broker, the Flynn Company. This. Oh, they testified. Mrs. Burkmeyer testified. Edward Burkmeyer testified. Kent County Commission.
That other letter was from Michael Kent, who also testified.
Yes, yes. The Greater Rock Hall Business Association supports approval of the zoning text amendment to increase the building height limit to 60 feet in the Route 301 growth corridor. Kent County needs to attract businesses to grow our tax base and to diversify our economy. with only about 1,000 developable acres available in the employment center zone of this corridor, the county should provide every incentive and opportunity for companies to locate here. Having a 60-foot height limit will encourage warehouses and distribution and data centers like Dixon Valve and Couplings building in Chestertown to build in this corridor. In fact, Dixon's warehouse is 57 feet high and could not have located there without Chestertown's 60-foot building height limit. As enrollment in our schools continue to shrink, we need to attract families with children to move to Kent County. Those families need good paying jobs in high growth industries. The Route 301 growth corridor is one of the 2 areas in Kent County available for this type of development. We recommend the Kent County Commissioners vote to approve the zoning text amendment. Sincerely, Susan Einstein, President of the Greater Rock Hall Business Association. Please let this letter serve as formal support for the ZTA that would regulate the permitted height and industrial structures in 301 corridor. The proposed amendment would allow for controlled growth in the county, which is needed to support the economic growth of the county. I'm also in full support of defining the 301 corridor in the land use ordinance. Planning, housing, and zoning staff clearly explain how and why this zoning text amendment complies with the comprehensive plan and its highest priorities, as well as changes in those buildings and automated fulfillment technology require this update to previous regulations. The existing code continues to inhibit growth, especially to help attract working families who seek employment in the county. Emily C. McCoy. To Kent County Commissioner, dear sir, I live very close to this proposed project, and in fact on the road, and it will take place. My property value will be affected severely if it takes place, plus the large amount of vehicles and their size will be a detriment to the community. Please allow us to live in our Kent County without this outrageous monstrosity. Would you want it in your neighborhood or community? Signed, Vernon Miller. That was from Miss Elizabeth Watson. We heard from her as well.
She didn't speak. She wasn't here. She wasn't here.
We called her name.
Excuse me,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
right,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
right, I apologize, I knew her name was there. Dear Commissioners, the following is in my comment on an item on your agenda for tomorrow's meeting, June 13th, 2023, concerning Code Home Rule Bill 2-2023. I ask that you vote no for the zoning text amendment. The reason I'm urging you to not vote for it is very simple. You don't have to do this. Sometimes the most careful conservative course of action is to take no action. It appears that the only reason you're being asked to adopt this amendment is that one developer is seeking to assure buyers for one property that they can build to suit their current plans for a single project. Others commenting will suggest persuasively, I believe, that this proposed amendment calls for you to take an action that is unconstitutional in Maryland, passing a special law that is benefiting one influential person. The Maryland Constitution prohibits such an action. That risk alone should give you cause to reject this amendment. Just as important, you have a better way to accomplish the same aims constitutionally and in a way that should preserve our community's ability to look carefully at individual proposals for individual sites with individual surroundings and environmental resources. What you can do is to proceed to consider this request under the comprehensive rezoning update you have had on your collective desk for months, if not years. As someone who participated as much as I could in the comprehensive rezoning update, I am distressed that you and your planning commission and all of us in the public have been caused to take unnecessary time and effort to consider this zoning text amendment. This piecemeal approach to both the height limit and economic development in 301 corridor disrespects the entire CRU process. I urge you to take a study as part of the continuing CRU process to identify ways to incorporate support for economic development across the country, not just in the 301 corridor, into your final actions for the CRU. I believe our zoning could use additional attention and research in order to align with our economic opportunities on a comprehensive basis. Without such an approach, I predict you will see more piecemeal zoning text amendments proposed over and over by developers in the years ahead, a waste of everyone's time and an unacceptable level of uncertainty in our local laws governing development and the reason for undertaking the CRU in the first place. Let's figure out a way in our land use ordinance to anticipate comprehensive needs in the economic development process and the county's needs overall wisely and efficiently and sustainably. When a developer proposes major change to our successful land use system, the conservative approach is not to award the request with a by right change to our zoning, but to proceed with deep caution. Using the CRU process allows us to think carefully about all possible impacts and establish a means for negotiating ways to mitigate these impacts while preserving the developer's vision in a way that benefits everyone. Please vote no on adopting the zoning text amendment before you. Thank you for your consideration. Elizabeth Watson. Miss Janet Christensen's was read by someone. Excuse.
I gave up the opportunity to read it because you had a copy and
Oh.
we didn't want to read twice.
I will definitely read it.
Thank you.
Dear Commissioners, it seems to be a prevailing belief that among supporters of Code Home Rule 2-2023 that the only options available are to either support the amendment or to be opposed to the sustainable economic future of Kent County. However, this oversimplifies the concerns raised by most individuals expressing their opinions about the amendment. What is actually being called for is a comprehensive review of the criteria for warehouse development in Kent County. A good example of this approach would be the Lehigh Planning Commission's report. Furthermore, the commissioners are being asked not to pass the text amendment as a piecemeal approach, but to consider integrating it as part of the ongoing comprehensive rezoning process. By taking this more comprehensive approach, the county can avoid repeating the mistakes made in other locations such as Harford County, Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, Riverside, California, New York, and various other places across the country. These aforementioned locations share a commonality. They initially welcomed warehouses as a form of economic development without fully considering the consequences. Over time, they realized the negative effects, including loss of farmland, decreased property values, air pollution, deteriorated water quality, and costly infrastructure repairs and upgrades. Kent County can learn from these mistakes and not repeat them. Therefore, the decision at hand is not binary and merely requires thoughtful considerations to ensure that the benefits of warehouse development outweigh the costs. It is crucial to heed the advice of the Kent County Planning Commission. After much consideration and discussion, they provided an unfavorable recommendation for Code Home Rule 2-2023 regarding the height of industrial buildings. Many individuals speaking up at these hearings will directly experience the impact of this decision. Unlike any of you, Commissioner Fithian, Price, and Nickerson, your homes will not be subjected to the noise of air brakes and idling diesel engines. Your vistas will be unchanged and the air you breathe will not be impacted daily by living within the 2-mile radius identified by the EPA as areas where pollutants like small particulate matter and nitrogen dioxide are increased around warehouses. I urge you to invest the necessary time and effort to thoroughly research the efforts of warehouse development on communities that have experienced proliferation, which this amendment is designed to facilitate. By studying these mistakes made in other areas, Kent County can gain valuable insights and adopt strategies that maximize revenue while minimizing long-term liabilities, including addressing issues such as traffic congestion, air and water pollution, and infrastructure costs. Adopting CHR 2-2023 will not accomplish this outcome. Signed, Janet Christensen, Lewis, Millington, Maryland. I'm writing to express my support for the zoning text amendment to allow building heights of 60 feet in areas zoned for commercial development. I've spent a lot of time collecting data and analyzing the economic status of Kent County and the town of Rock Hall where I live. I understand the financial issues that face my county, and my town. I also understand that there are a variety of very deeply held positions about the future path of this county. I don't believe I've met a single Kent County resident who doesn't love the rural, wide-open spaces aspect of our home. It is a breathtaking, beautiful place. This is a big part of why we love living here. However, the decades of suppressing development here has taken a financial and economic toll. I believe our financial day of reckoning is at hand. As I'm sure you are aware, 89% of our land is zoned agricultural, limiting your ability to tax it. This leaves a scant 11% for residential and commercial use. My understanding is that the commercially zoned areas comprise only 5.9%. In my view, regardless of what many or any of us may want individually, we have little choice but to take whatever actions we can to maximize the tax revenues from these commercial areas. If it takes taller buildings to generate these tax revenues, then we should proceed with all haste. We need to increase the population of this county to generate sufficient property and income taxes to help us thrive in the future. Without new year-round industry and jobs, it will be difficult to do so. With this in mind, developing the commercial areas ASAP is essential. If passing this zoning text amendment helps to move this process forward, then we must do it. I think it's important for all my fellow Kent County residents to understand their demographics. Current average age for Maryland is 38.8 years. Kent County, 47.1 years. Rockwall, 51 years. Demographically, we are an old county. 2% of residents over 50 years in Maryland, percent of residents over 50 years in Maryland is 36. In Kent County, 48. Rockwall, 56. Median household income for Maryland is $90,000. Kent County, $64,000. Rockwall, $50,000. Financially, we earn less than most counties. Why is this data important? Because our income tax base is already significantly lower than the statewide average, and our population is rapidly aging by retirement. As more and more residents stop working and begin living off Social Security, this tax base will continue to erode. I'm sure you're already aware of this. These facts only emphasize the urgency for commercial development and the construction of housing for young families. Failure to act on this information will force increases to property taxes and service fees that will fall upon the budgets of an increasingly elderly population. They will be hard pressed to pay. If these people are forced to sell their homes and leave, I suspect many properties will be acquired as second homes by non-residents. This exacerbates two issues. These people were not homesteaded in Kent County and their income will be taxed elsewhere. Many of these homes will enter the Airbnb pool, depriving us of housing for people to live and work in the county. I could go on, but I think you understand these issues. Signed, Rick Carter, Delmarva Craft, LLC. Mr. Lewis, he did not testify, did he?
No, sir.
I'm gonna read the letter. There's a whole bunch of attachments that I'm not gonna go with. I'm not gonna read all of that. We're getting close to the bottom here.
It's only a book.
Huh?
It's only a book.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna read the letter and, the attachments, so we'll have a chance to look at them. Dear Commissioners, I'm writing to oppose the approval of the zoning text amendment which increases the height limit from 45 to 60 feet in a 301 corridor and will detail some of the reasons why I believe this would severely degrade the environment in the area in an irreversible manner. In addition, I believe the approval of a ZTA rather than requiring such approvals to be done on an individual basis through a variance for a specific building would eliminate your ability to exercise future control for similar structures and would be an extraordinarily hazard to the environment of Kent County and the specific area of Millington Crossing. The effect of increasing the height limit from 45 to 60 feet is basically to double the effective usable floor area of the warehouse. The usual ceiling height of the warehouses is 30 feet, and an increase to 60 would allow 2 separate floors to be built, or alternatively, would allow storage racks on a single floor to be nearly doubled in height. Automated and computerized technology has made it possible to operate storage and retrieval equipment at these greater heights, and thereby to increase the usable cubic feet within the warehouse without increasing the size of the footprint. The end result of this is to increase the usable volume of the warehouse, which proportionately increases the storage capacity and subsequently the truck traffic to and from the warehouse. Since the volume of traffic is the principal cause of the environmentally negative impact of the warehouse in the first place, the increase in height limit would effectively magnify the negative impact of the warehouse on traffic by 150 to 200%. Since the traffic volumes is the principal factor, I want to raise as a negative effect of raising the height limit. I want to detail the reasons for my concern about this issue. In my research, I've been amazed at the volume of traffic which facilities such as this generate. The standard reference for estimating traffic at high cube warehouses or distribution centers, which is what this warehouse is intended to be, is the Trip Generation 10th edition and the Institute of Traffic Engineers. Attachment 1 to this email provides a summary of estimated volume of peak anticipated evening traffic. These projections are based on the total square footage of the warehouse. The rates provided for peak evening traffic is 1.37 trips per 1,000 square feet. Since each of the proposed warehouses is 256,000 square feet, the total is 512,000 square feet. Multiplying 512 times the above total daily volume, 512 times 1.37 equals 701 trips. Assuming an approximate 18-hour operating day, the average hourly trip rate would be 701/18 equals 39 trips an hour, or approximately 1 trip in and out every 1.5 minutes. This relatively uninterrupted traffic flow throughout the day would totally change the character of the traffic flow at the 301-291 crossing. Traffic circles, overpass, and adjacent access roads were not designed for nor anticipated to have such a volume of traffic. Now, would the people who have to drive regularly through that intersection have any concept of how severe the effect would be on the normal commuting? I doubt that most people contemplating the building of a new warehouse at this location have any conception of how disruptive this would be. The resulting impact of air pollution from this massive volume of traffic, not to mention the additional emissions from dozens of idling diesel trucks parked at the warehouse, waiting to be loaded or unloaded, would likely create a major environmental hazard with significant degradation of the air quality in the area. The traffic study, which was done by the developers to analyze the impact of these warehouses, was done on the assumption that this was an old-style warehouse with a 45-foot height limit and would be primarily a storage facility, not a distribution warehouse or fulfillment center. Such facilities have a dramatically lower traffic flow, as can be seen by consulting attachment 1 again for a type 150 warehouse versus a type 155 warehouse, which is what is intended. One can see that instead of 1.37 trips per 1,000 square feet, the estimate for type 150 warehouses is only 0.19 trips per 1,000 square feet, generating an estimate of only 97 trips a day rather than 701. This study, which is all the Planning Commission and County Commissioners presently have, is therefore invalid and of no value whatsoever in projecting the traffic impact from a type 155 high cube distribution warehouse, particularly one with a 60-foot height limit, which allows the number of floors to be doubled. Before any approvals can be considered for this ETA, it is essential that the commissioners insist that a new traffic study be done which will accurately project the volumes of traffic which can be anticipated from the intended use of this facility, including the projected height limit increase from 45 to 60 feet. Without this, they have no way to accurately evaluate the real impact of these structures on the local environment of Kent County and their residents in the area. It's also important to note that the initial zoning of this area, which designated the area for industrial warehouse use, was done in 2002, over 20 years ago. At that time, no one could have anticipated the explosion in online retail commerce and the resulting pressure to construct huge warehouses with heights far above a single story, and automation which allows many times the packaging throughout that was normal in the past. The traffic impact which I have outlined here is only one aspect of the multiple negative impacts which such facilities have, and neither Kent County nor the developer have done any such studies, so any zoning decisions in regard to such facilities should be postponed until such information is available. To do otherwise is to ignore the irreversible degradation of the local environment and the basic living quality of Kent County residents. I believe it is the essential obligation of the commissioners to protect the environmental quality of Kent County and consider the residents' welfare before they move forward with approval of this project. They presently lack a great deal of essential information about the global environment impacts and must have this to make a truly informed decision. To illustrate that the above concerns are not purely theoretical, I have included 5 attachments that describe in detail what the impacts of high-cube warehouses have been in different areas of the country and how the environments have been severely degraded without adequate evaluation of the impacts before they were constructed. Once built, such structures will be there for a long time, and it is crucial for the commissioners to carefully consider what the impact of the decisions will be for decades to come. Lastly, I've attached a comprehensive planning document which was created by the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission in 2021 to illustrate all the issues which need to be considered when considering the approval of high-cube warehousing. Traffic volume is only one consideration of many others that need to be evaluated. This is the most comprehensive document I've been able to find that clearly outlines all the issues which are important to consider. Sincerely, Frank R. Lewis.
Frank who?
Frank R. Lewis.
Oh, okay.
Dear sirs, Martha and I are opposed to the zoning text amendment. We feel strongly that a detailed study of the impact of warehouse development should be undertaken prior to any change in general policy or even single exceptions to existing policy. We drive from Rock Hall to and through the area in question and often comment on the beauty and peacefulness of the surroundings, both around Millington and the countryside between Rock Hall and Millington. It is a concern to us that a zoning change would be adopted without a detailed study of the aspects of the change to Kent County, both now and in the more distant future. Thank you for your considering our opinions. And that was Daniel and Martha Bliss, North Hawthorne Avenue, Rock Hall. My family lives in Millington and are deeply concerned about the ramifications this amendment would have in our immediate community. We appreciate the current low impact to our living environment with respect to noise, light, water, traffic, and air pollution. It is with deep appreciation of our community that we're asking you to deny the development of high-cube industrial buildings and automated warehouses. These types of irresponsible development decisions come at a high cost to the quality of life communities enjoy and add little to the communities affected. Please consider our beautiful landscapes and put our quality of life over proposed high-cube industrial development. Thank you, Laura A. Wolf. I'm writing in support of Bill number CHR 2-2023, which amends the building height restriction of commercial and industrial buildings located along the Route 301 corridor. This bill has significant potential to draw investment into the county. This investment can produce jobs for county residents and will help expand the property tax base and revenue. Facilitating job creation and offsetting residents' tax burdens is a goal all elected officials should hold at the forefront of their decision-making process. Changing the height restriction along the 301 corridor is an effective and low-impact way to accomplish these goals. There are always trade-offs when considering or enacting a new policy, and many of those who may be in opposition do have valid concerns. However, this change seems to provide more benefits than negatives. I should add that during the recent productive discussions on the county tax set-off issue, one of the important factors discussed was the need to encourage and facilitate growth in areas which can and should host the specific types of development most suited for that area or jurisdiction. The county, through this bill, is practicing exactly this principle by focusing significant commercial and industrial development along an existing major highway where it should be. I believe this action will be a net benefit to the county and will be a net positive to the people who I represent. I fully support this low impact and thoughtful action on the part of the commissioners. Respectfully, James Cook, Mayor of Rock Hall. And last, we have one more. Good morning, Commissioners. My name's Paula Reeder. I'm a 33-year full-time resident of Kent County.
In the interest of time, if you would just capture the last 3 paragraphs where I was cut off.
I will definitely do that.
Please finish.
Opponents fear-mongering assertion that this text amendment will lead to uncontrolled Middletown-type development and destruction of our way of life is patently absurd. The facts are that less than 12% of county land is zoned for commercial, industrial, and residential use, and this text amendment applies to just one of 2 small districts approved for commercial and industrial development. Further development project permitting will remain subject to developers' prior satisfaction of the county's rigorous project approval criteria. Given these conditions, the prospect of unfettered development is simply not plausible. Opponents' final fallback argument is that action on this text amendment should be deferred until it can be considered in the large context of a new comprehensive plan. As you know, our comprehensive plan isn't scheduled for a rewrite for another 5 years. In the meantime, without prompt action to amend our land use code to recognize present-day business practice standards and proactively encourage smart growth, we will face increasingly severe county budget restraints and shortfalls. And I'm sure none of you look forward to continuing to have to tackle those challenges in the days ahead. Delaying action on this proposal is not in any of our best interests. It's time for Kent County to strike an appropriate balance between local agriculture, residential, and commercial and industrial business interests. To do so, the county should follow Chestertown's lead and start conforming our county land use ordinance to present-day commercial building standards and best practices so we can attract strong new businesses to the one location the county identified as its preferred site for large-scale commercial industrial development over 20 years ago. Again, I ask for your affirmative vote on this proposal. Thank you for your consideration. And that concludes that.
Good job. You need a drink of water?
I think you probably do.
Yeah.
Okay, with that aside, that will conclude our public hearing, and now we can go into our regular meeting. Thank you, those of you, thank you all for your attendance again.
Thank you.
We need to take actions on establishing the Kent County tax levy. Want to entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Ayes have it. Resolution 2023-09, adoption of income tax rate. Need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Resolution 2023-10, establishing the water and sewer rates, which means they'll be increased by 4%. We need a motion for.
I'll make the motion for the increase of 4%.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the ayes have it. Now we'll do Resolution 2023-11, adoption of the FY 2024 budget. Do I have a motion to approve that?
I don't have any revisions. Do you, Albert?
No, sir.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion that we adopt our FY 2024 budget as presented.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the ayes have it. We have 3 consent items. Regular session minutes, June 6, 2023. Liquor minutes, June 6, 2023. Public hearing minutes, June 6, 2023. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
Yes, sir.
Motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the ayes have it. We have 3 special Class C licenses. First is the Shore Rivers for a beer, wine, and liquor dated June 24th, 2023. Eastern Shore Rabbit Rescue and Education Center, beer only, July the 4th, 2023. Eastern Shore Rabbit Rescue and Education Center, beer only, September the 9th, 2023. Because these are alcohol license, they need a public hearing. Today's meeting will serve as that public hearing. If anyone has any objection to this, either of these 3 applications, please feel free to do so at this time. With there being no comments, I entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve them as presented.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it. First up is our Human Resources Director, Kent Family Center, Child Development Teacher vacancy.
I'm going to request we take a moment to ensure that he knows that we're in the regular meeting minute.
Here he comes.
Oh, there he is.
Just right on time, sir.
Afternoon, everyone. I guess that means the HR item is up.
Yes.
You're here to talk about the Kent Family Center?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I believe you have the information in front of you, but I'll grab my note. Good afternoon. Surprised you all on a lunch break. Looks like you all had a busy morning.
Yeah.
So yes, here to talk about a position in the Kent Family Center. I believe you have the details in your packet. Jen White from my office coordinated the advertising, recruitment, and shared in the interviewing. And as you can see, there was the vacancy was for a number of weeks. 7 different applicants. Of those 7, 3 were interviewed. 2 who were already scheduled for interviews missed their interviews. The candidate that came forth as the top candidate possessed the background that they were looking for, as well as an undergraduate degree and prior experience dealing directly with children. So that's why HR, as well as the department, felt she was the appropriate candidate. We bring that forth to the 3 of you for consideration for a conditional offer of employment, which, you know, if there's an agreement here, we'll proceed with doing that.
I'll make a motion to approve the recommended candidate for conditional employment offer.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Pat Merritt, Office of Finance, talking about her audit services.
Hello.
How are you, Pat?
Good.
Good.
Well, as budget season ends, audit season starts. So our contract with our current auditor is up. SB and Company has been our auditors for many years now. We've been extremely satisfied with their services, and we'd like to continue them. They've sent us a proposal to continue services, and it piggybacks off of a recent contract with Washington County that was competitively bid. So if you see in your attachment, I think the new contract has options to renew for the next 4 years, and the 2023 pricing is 3.5% above last year's. So we are looking for a motion to approve continuation of audit services with SB and Company in accordance with the attached fee quote.
I'll make the motion to approve this as presented.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you, Pat.
Okay, thank you, and congratulations on the budget adoption. It's a really rough year, but
Yes.
it's come to a conclusion.
Congratulations to you.
You have all the hard work up there, that's for sure.
Now, next one is Mr. Herb Dennis, which I know isn't here, but Captain Wallace, or, I know you have a couple officers with you.
Good afternoon.
CC, you gonna come up forward?
I mean, of course, I'm always embrace your presence, no problem. I
All
was
right.
gonna let them do the hard work, but that's fine.
Okay.
Good afternoon. As I mentioned, I'm Captain Wallace from the Kent County Detention Center. Corporal Scarborough's to my right, and Officer Stickland's over there as well. We'll first talk about the medical provider that we currently have and the vendor that we want to go with, and then they'll talk about the food item, Trinity Services, when I'm finished. The Kent County Detention Center has an agreement with WellPath Medical Health Services since 1993 and Mental Health Services since 2003. The original service agreement has been extended, renewed multiple times over the years, and has since initiated initiation of these contracts. Many aspects of the agreement have changed. Based primarily on staffing issues, COVID, and employment-related struggles, WellPath has been unable to perform the full capacity of their contractual obligations. Therefore, KCDC has decided to go outside and look for other vendors to ensure that we get top-level quality of care and no legal action at any juncture for the county. Searches were made, and we found Prime Care Medical Services, who were allowing us to piggyback off of Cecil County Detention Center, who has Prime Care as well, through RFP 21-04. Although their proposal come in a little bit higher than WellPath's, and the dollar amount, Prime Care is going to provide KCDC with professional standings, based on their rapport, professional standings, and from good service reviews from other clients who have worked with Prime Care. Kent County Detention Center has chose, hopefully, to go with that vendor. Our WellPath contract, medical contract, and health services contract expires June 30th, 2023. However, WellPath has agreed to extend their contract to July 16th at 11:59 p.m. And that July 17th, that's when Prime Care anticipates picking up the coverage, if the commissioners agree to go with Prime Care. Sorry.
You had a question, or you made a statement that Prime Care is a little more than WellPath. Is more than what we've been paying for WellPath, or would Prime Care be more than what WellPath would be if we renewed with WellPath?
Correct. WellPath, in FY '23, the proposal was $406,000 for WellPath, and in FY '24, it's $635,965. And Prime Care is $741,669.84.
So is it based on your past experience with WellPath and what you have learned from other governments that have used Prime Care, that is it your recommendation that the lowest bidder should not be accepted and we should accept a bidder that's higher than the lowest bidder?
Correct. Because based off of talking to other agencies, the on-site coverage is 40 hours guaranteed. We have a HSA and a LPN, 16 hours a week, or 16 hours a day, coverage plus CMTs. They're ensuring that 40-hour site coverage is going to be done. Right now with WellPath, you might give a nurse 2 days a week out of the 7.
So it's your opinion that the existing vendor, the coverage they provide right now is inadequate?
Correct.
And so even though the cost is less, they're not providing the level of service needed. So this vendor, even though it's more, is the better option.
Correct.
And it's one that you can take rather than taking the low bid, because the low bid is not responsible in the sense that they can't provide the services that's needed.
Correct. And we feel that based off of...
They have not, based on your...
Correct. And we feel that based off of inadequate services, sooner or later, we're going to be in a legal issue. And we want to avoid that if we can, of course.
And the increase is how much?
Over last year, the increase, I believe, is about 300,000, but over the bid that they put in for this coming fiscal year, it's about 100,000.
Yeah.
They were actually in violation of their contract. They were not providing the services that they were contractually obligated to provide this past year.
So, I mean, I'm satisfied from a legal standpoint that you can go with the company that's not the lowest bid for the reasons that.
Simply because
Has been
they weren't
presented.
performing properly.
Correct.
Correct. Thank you.
You need a level of service that is above what WellPath has demonstrated that they could provide.
Correct.
So that justifies taking the higher bid.
Yes, sir.
Entertain a motion?
Is this extra funding going to be in addition to what we already approved?
No, it's budgeted. It's within the budgeted amount.
And this is just for the medical and mental health services?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
And it's for 1 year?
For the detention center.
Yes. That amount is for 1 year, but it's a multi-year contract, so we do not have to go through this exercise for another couple of years.
It is a five-year contract with stipends that can change additional year up to 3 years with different different dates actually. So they are actually holding yourselves to it for 5 years for that.
And, but this is for more than just the inmates at the prison, correct, or at the jail?
What do you mean when you say more?
So like the home detention and,
No,
No.
home detention does not come in for, and that, only if they're in the facility do they get seen.
Correct.
This deals with the mental health, things of that nature.
wow, this is a lot.
I have a concern about
A lot of money.
the length of the contract. As you may have already heard, there's conversations with counties about a regional jail.
We don't have to renew at any time for another year.
You mean this has to be approved every year?
No, we can give them notice that we're not going, even though it's a 5-year contract, we will renew it every year. So we'll exercise that option for the year.
Or we don't have to?
They have options.
Correct, or we don't have to.
So that's
We
in
can give
there?
them notice.
Is there, no, I'm just looking
That's
for
really-
the-
I
In the-
looked
in
in
the
the other
contract.
contracts and I didn't,
In the contract, it says 100, up to 180 days at any part, any side,
I
our
haven't
side
had
or
a
that
chance to
side.
actually see this one here at the contract yet.
Yeah,
But I did look at the one before that, which I guess you're gonna talk about the food services for 3 years.
Correct.
And there didn't seem to me to be a clause there, unless I missed it, where it could be pulled out, or?
Or you can opt out.
We could terminate.
Looks
that's
like
the
this
same way.
is, the term is for a period of, I'm just looking at the healthcare contract. It says, the term of this agreement shall be for a period of 5 years, and then there shall be 3 additional 1-year option periods. Termination, we could terminate it sooner, but we'd have to give 6 months' notice.
Which we will have plenty of notice if we were to go that route.
We don't know where we're at with this process at this point, but there is a lot of talk about a regional facility as opposed to our facility here, you know, so I just want to make sure that we're not locked in to a contract long-term, because the estimated time frame in a very brief conversation, and Shelley was there, is probably about 4 years for a regional facility. So we need to keep that in mind. If
With
in
all
fact,
contracts.
Kent County and Caroline and Queen Anne's decide to combine. And that's unknown at this point.
And I don't recall this going through legal review. It might have, and I don't remember it, but I don't recall seeing this. So just like contracts that obligate us like this should probably be routed through legal review at some point.
They're supposed to be, yes.
Right, because if I saw this and don't remember, I apologize, but I don't seem to recall reviewing this contract until now.
So are you suggesting that you need more time to look at the contract, or?
No, I think
Are you satisfied that we're protected?
I'm satisfied that if we need to make a change, we're on this with 180 days. If staff feels that 180 days is not overburdensome to terminate the contract, I'm okay. It's something that I think we need to have a provider in place. We need to have a provider in place now, so I don't want to hold this up.
And there are 2 other options on there for termination as well. That would include if they default in their services as well.
Or
And it's
if
just
the
shorter,
county-
actually, amount of time for that.
Or for some reason the county,
Or if the
feels
county
it's
is also
too
a third
much,
option
they
for the
can't
county as
pay.
well.
Right.
We feel like
if-
it's not in our budget as well, or insufficient funding.
Correct. That's kind of
Sure.
required if there's no money available.
So for example, if we were to move to a regional detention center, what that means, that clause means, if we were to move to that and you guys were to obligate money to that, then you wouldn't have money to obligate to
Right.
this other, to the contract out of the current detention center, and that clause would kick into effect.
Right, I mean, that clause I don't think would be applicable if we just wanted to go to another vendor, because we'd be obligating the money, but if we were not obligating the money or didn't have the money to fund it, then we could get out.
Right.
What is your current population today, if you know?
It's 30 in-house, 14 on pretrial, and 4 on home detention.
And out of those 30s, how many of them are from other jurisdictions that were home?
7, 8. I believe it's 5 federal and 3 from other counties.
Do we get,
Yeah,
we get compensated for?
compensated. Well, we get compensated for the U.S. Marshals, but not for the
Yes,
other
correct.
jurisdictions.
But they also help us, those locals help
It
us
helps with the meal
interchange if we
costs.
need to move somebody as well.
Right.
So it keeps our options open.
So
which is-
really, what we have as far as Kent County inmates right now is 22 that are actually incarcerated. 22 Kent County commitments.
Correct.
And do you know how many are on home detention right now?
4. Which at any point, of course, anybody on home
That could
detention or
change.
pretrial can change it. And so if we add those 16 in there, then we're sitting at 40, or 38, I should say, to be correct. So at any time, we always have to bargain, those kind of, they are in community supervision, but because of the ramifications, like just today, one got called back in, so they'll be back in our population within soon if their pretrial is revoked, or if they're home detention, they break a rule, then of course they have to come back to us as well.
Look, I want you to understand, the only reason why I'm asking some of these questions is because there is the proposal out there of the regional jail. And during our budget process, and please share this with the staff there at the detention center, I value what each and every one of you do. But when I look at the population numbers, the home detention people. It's financially, it doesn't make sense sometimes to put out that kind of taxpayer dollars to do the function locally. It may be a better option to do it regionally, if that makes sense to you.
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
absolutely,
So-
it does.
Don't think for 1 minute that I don't support what you guys do, because I do.
There's always a bigger picture, we understand that.
It all comes down to dollars and cents. So,
And I'm pretty sure that you guys answered this question before, but I just want to make sure that this is correct and for the people that are listening. This is a mandate, another gift from the state to Kent County, correct? Correct. Okay, I just wanted to say that out loud so that,
We have to provide these
Yeah.
services.
I mean, this is expensive. I'm doing the math
Correct.
relatively easily, 30 inmates a week. You do that, it's $452 or $450 an inmate per week. That's a lot of money for healthcare. So I want to say that out loud. But thank you, State of Maryland.
It's not a question of whether or not we have to provide these services, it's a question as to which vendor we use to provide the services.
And I don't want to use one that's going to get us in trouble either.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve and sign a medical and mental health services contract with Prime Care Medical Incorporated, effective as of July 17th, 2023, in the amount of $741,669.84 for fiscal year 2024.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
All right?
All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, and now we got one other issue.
Food services.
Renewal for the inmate meals,
Correct.
Yes,
okay?
and as you know, it's based on how many inmates are in the jail, the lesser the inmates.
The higher the
higher
cost.
food. They were the only bidder for our food contract, we've already got them established and in place.
But we did run a competitive RFP
Yeah.
process.
We
They
even had people
literally
come
were
in.
the only bidder.
Yeah, but they did not bid in. They don't provide for us what we need, just like with Airmark. So, but anyway, they have, as stated earlier, they did do a multi-year from 2023 to 2026 contract that can be backed out of if needed, with a slight raise in cost per plate, percentage-wise per year. As like an example, 21 to 30 meals for FY '24 would be $8.10. For FY '25, it would be $8.50.
Are you talking about 3 meals, or are you talking about 1 meal?
Per meal.
So it'd be $25 roughly per inmate.
So they base it on per meal, per, breakfast, meal, lunch, per meal. And then in FY '26, it would go up to $8.93, but that's based on inmates from 21 to 30. So, and we, Captain Wallace is very vigilant on getting federal US Marshals in to make sure our number stays up there and it doesn't drop down. So, and they're very, and plus we make money off the US Marshals as well.
So, and with this contract, we used our regular contract that we have generated. Sometimes we use the vendor's contract. This one is the Kent County contract, and this does provide for ways to back out, yeah, to cancel the contract if we need to.
So this is for inmate meals. I have to ask this tough question, and I'm not questioning what you've done. But do we feed staff from time to time?
Do we feed our staff? Yes, our staff has an option of getting a tray.
And do staff pay for that, or do they?
No, it is given, due to the fact that officers work 12-hour shifts and cannot leave, it is all for that reason. If they worked 8 hours, they could, eat before to come to work or after, but they're stuck there for 12 one meal is offered to them. Like during the day, one meal is offered. Now, night shift, they're offered breakfast. Sometimes if there's a tray left over for dinner, then it's left in the refrigerator for an officer to have,
And that's offered at the same price as the
as the inmates.
So the officer is actually paying that, for that meal or not?
No, the officers do not pay for the meals.
Do we have an idea what the cost is associated with employee meals?
On an average week, there is, what did I say, 40? We discussed that the other day. I would say 17 meals a day. So I think is what we came up with.
For the officers?
But it can be less,
Right.
so.
But you pay,
But
what you
that's the
pay,
max. That's pretty much max.
what you pay per meal is based on how many meals served. So
Yes.
if the officers are having meals, that lowers the
No.
overall cost,
No,
No.
it's based on the number of inmates.
Inmates only.
not based on the, so,
No,
17.
so having the officers doesn't lower the per meal
no,
cost.
it does not.
Okay.
17 meals
A day?
a week.
Now, the warden has also said that if this was a holdup, as far as inmate, officer meals, that we could change that. He would just change the standard on that as well.
Here's my, and I'm only speaking as John Price. It's $1,000 a week, just in employee meals, times 365, or times 52 weeks. That's a lot of money. I would like to, should this be an emotion or what?
I would do it as a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we eliminate the staff meals and only feed the inmates due to the current financial situation that the county's in. And I'm sorry to have to do that, because I know it's been a common practice. But there's a lot of agencies that work 12-hour shifts. We have dispatchers, we have sheriff's deputies that all work 12-hour shifts, and nobody pays for the meals. In fact, sheriff's deputies better not take a gratuity or, because it's unethical. And I'm not saying what you've been doing is unethical, it's just time to trim back because of the cost associated with feeding our own employees. Pack a lunchbox, there's refrigeration there to keep the stuff cold. Right. So my motion would be to eliminate that current procedure.
Let me ask you this, would the employee be able to purchase the meals at cost?
I don't think
Something.
that there's a problem with that. It might have to go through the invoicing, but we may have to collect the money from the employee.
And is that gonna cause a problem if you all have to do that?
No, me and the warden actually discussed this last week.
I just don't think, I understand why you do it, or why you have done it, but in these times that we're in financially, we're trying to save every dollar that we can save. And we don't do it for some of the other 12-hour operations. So I'm a firm believer that we should not use taxpayer money to feed employees.
That's fine,
Well,
they'll be fine with it.
But that's just my motion. I may not even get a second.
Well, it
But-
doesn't change the contract at all,
But
actually.
we'll see what-
That's an
we'll see what
addition,
happens.
yeah, the contract still stays the same.
That's my motion.
I am going to second it. I just want to reiterate what the sheriff said about, look, I don't know, you guys probably paid a little bit of attention to the budget, maybe not the whole thing, and I don't blame you. But we had to make cuts to other departments this year and staffing. And I think it would be a little irresponsible of myself, I'm not going to speak for them, if we didn't do this particular thing. I really do. And maybe someday the jail gets bigger and flows better. It comes back because of the 12-hour shift. But I'm going to second it, and that's the reason.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it.
And refresh my memory, that was just for, you didn't approve the contract in that motion,
No,
correct?
I'm
It was
ready.
just for the,
Get ready to make another
the-
motion. I didn't
okay.
want to confuse the two.
Okay, but no, very good. I just,
So having gotten that out of the way now, I'd like to make a motion to approve and sign the Trinity Services Group contract for inmate meals from July 1st, 2023 to June 31st, 2026.
Motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And I just would like to say that we are looking at other options as far as the food, which Commissioner Price mentioned a while back. We were down to the MCAA convention, the 46th annual, and we spoke to a lot of agencies that are doing what you talked about. They hired 2 in-house people. The health department provides a nutritionist, and then they get all their food from Cisco. And their cost is way down. So I think we're gonna certainly go look at a lot of options so we can get away from this as much as possible. This year, we were kind of under the gun, so we had to kind of, go get what we had to get. But certainly, we're starting right today on through. We're gonna look at other options so we can save everybody money, of course. And they'll still get,
Anything that we can do to reduce operational cost.
yeah, and they'll still get the
we should be
nutritional
on
value.
top of that.
They'll get 2 hot meals, 1 cold meal a day, and they'll have a nutritionist, so everything will be on course. So we're certainly looking at that. We hope to present it to you within the year.
Thank you.
Thank you
Of
very
course.
much.
Thank you for your
And
efforts.
Mr. Yeager, we'll certainly make sure you're CC'd in every future contract.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys. Gals. Gotta be careful.
Scott Boone, Director of Information Technology. Scott, how are you this morning?
Good, how are you?
Excuse me.
I guess afternoon. We have 2 items for you. The first one is a request to begin the procurement process to obtain new firewalls. These are edge devices to protect us from the outside, the entire network. We would like to piggyback off Maryland Do It contract 060B2490022. The amount would be $71,815. And I believe it's 5 years of licensing, prepaid, and it's not to exceed. And this was something we submitted to you for the FY24 budget. One other explanation I would give you is the firewalls are very important, obviously, because they are at the edge, but it also, it's factored into what we call, in cybersecurity, it's called defense in depth, where you don't have 2 strategies that do the same thing, but they sort of overlap to a degree. So if something slips past one, it's grabbed by another. And if you recall, last year we did our SEAM solution, which is information and event logging, and it tells us kind of what's going on. It sets a baseline, says there's a red flag, there's some things that look a little anomalous. Well, they work hand in hand. And so this particular maker of firewalls works very well with our current SEAM solution that we have in place, so it enhances our cybersecurity posture. So we are requesting a motion to approve purchasing of these firewalls.
I think this is a very important effort, so I'm going to make the motion to approve Alliance Technology Group and to piggyback off of Maryland Do It contract 060B2490022 in the amount of $71,815 for the purchase of firewalls, and this also provides 5 years of support.
I've got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
All opposed, the ayes have it.
The next item is our finance and permitting system renewal. It's, we come to you every year because it's far above the limit that we can approve. It says 4th year, it's actually the 4th year beyond the initial year, so it's the end of our 5th year term. And so we're requesting a motion to approve renewal of our contract with Central Square in the amount of $139,936.22.
All within budget.
That's correct.
I'm sorry?
Just wanted to,
all within budget.
All within budget, correct, yep.
I'll make the motion to approve purchase requisition for the 4th year of the Central Square contract in the amount of $139,936.22.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And unfortunately, Rosie and Jamie are committed elsewhere this afternoon, so they won't be able to join us. But what I'm going to request is permission to move Dan Schneckenberger, the Executive Director of the Upper Shore Workforce Investment Board. That's the third item under me. And let him present his item, and then perhaps we can get back on schedule. You're okay?
That's perfect.
Probably makes his day as well.
Thank you, Shelley.
You're welcome.
I was going to say good morning, I'll say good afternoon, I'm glad it's not good evening.
Might say goodnight before it's over with.
So,
For those just for my colleague, Dan, previous met Dan in the past, he was a county commissioner of Cecil County at one time.
correct. Lots of information on logistics, if you'd like to discuss that at another time, but I'm sure you had your fill of that today. But I'm here to talk about the Upper Shore Workforce Investment Board, County Commissioners, glad to be here in Kent County. I have sent Director Heller, the U.S. WIB Local Workforce Development Area Memorandum of Understanding, which is our resource sharing agreement. We are required by the Federal Department of Labor to issue a new agreement, which will go in effect July 1st, 23, and expire 2 years later on June 30th, 2025. WIOA, which requires us, it's a Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, requires local workforce areas to submit an updated plan showing how we administer the American Job Center network and detail all parts and how all partners work together to deliver workforce and education services to the Upper Shore. Maryland Department of Labor and our LEA director is Tarenda Thomas, are partners as well in that agreement. All 5 county elected officials are partners. Usually with this agreement, it's the chief elected official, Mr. President, will have a signing authority on that. It also requires all directors from the individual Department of Social Services in each county to sign off on the building. In the plan, attachment 1 is a very large spreadsheet that just shows the in-kind and some financial pieces that make the American Job Center work very well. The second document, which is under public comment at this point, and we'll work with Director Heller to get that to you. The public comment will go through June 20th. That is the WIOA local plan. This is a much larger document. It details all the various pieces of the WIOA law and what the U.S. WIB does to implement them in detail. As soon as I get this document back with the public comment attached to it, should be around June 20th. I'll work with Director Heller to also get your endorsement. There's no fiscal note attached to either of these documents. The U.S. WIB does not receive any funding from Kent County government. In the period of 2021 to 2023, the current MOU, which I'm asking for your approval today, we've expended over $120,000 to residents of Kent County for workforce training, and we have paid specific attention to the job needs of your excellent manufacturers in the county. And if you're looking for our American Job Center, we're at 115A South Lynchburg Street in Chestertown.
Very good.
Any
I would like to make a motion to approve the local workforce development area memorandum of understanding 2023-2025 for the Upper Shore Workforce Investment Board.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
That only took 3 hours and a half for you to get that done.
It was a fun day to be here. So
Yeah, well,
have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
you do the same. Good seeing you.
And I can handle Rosie and Jamie's items, but if you'd like to move ahead in the agenda,
sure he's sitting
prior,
here.
that's fine
Mike,
by me.
you want to come up?
All right, good evening. Yes, good evening. Afternoon. I didn't want to make it too bad. All right, first item on your agenda is the FY 2024 Cooperative Weed Control Agreement. This is an annual agreement that we get through the Department of Agriculture to provide technical support for our weed control program. It is a no cost to the county, but I did want to note that currently the county weed control program is not active due to a lack of personnel. We do not have anything. The coordinator had to resign due to medical reasons, and we've been unable to hire any technical people. So we're kind of on hold with that whole program. So, and if you recall, that program was funded through money that we got from the State Highway Administration for taking care of the weeds on state right-of-way. And then that money goes into an account, and we utilize that account to do weed control on county right-of-way. But unfortunately, difficulty being able to hire anybody. Ronnie can remember, we've had three people, and all of them were retirees from a county weed control program. Scott was one of the first ones we had when the program was started up. But they've all retired, so we're kind of stuck for a while here. And in order to do that kind of work, you need to be certified to be able to work on private property, including the state.
Certification, maybe I could volunteer.
Don't, okay, I'm going to write you down. I got the truck ready for you. No, it's unfortunate. It's difficult to get anybody. So we're continuing to advertise. Jim's working on that. We'll see what comes up. There may be a possibility that he may come back, Jay may come back in the fall, but I kind of doubt it from my discussions with him.
So right now, we won't have a weed control.
We don't have a program, right?
At least
So
in the near future.
we can just keep hoping to reamp that up. But, to have a committee, it doesn't make sense to have that. We have the quote came in from the state asking for an agreement as far as the county doing that work. We're going to have to put that on hold. And like I said, this agreement doesn't cost anything, so with the hope that we do get somebody, we want to continue the contract. We can sign that, but we're just in a holding pattern.
The price is right.
Yes.
Do we have any idea, Mike? I think we get $105,000 for road maintenance from the state, roughly, or is it more?
Are you talking specifically weed control
No,
or
no, I'm
the
talking
highway
about-
user revenues?
The highway.
For the highway user money.
More than that.
I think it's
not
more.
nearly
Yeah,
what it used
yeah.
to be, but it's-
That's funding
So-
for our surface treatment
So are we
paving
gonna
projects.
lose this funding if we don't find somebody?
No, the state provides other funding. They pay $150 an hour for a two-man crew to do work on the state highway. So the crew would go out, work on state highway, they have a GIS map tablet where they would report the areas they do, and then the state would provide funding for that. It's a whole different funding source.
Have we thought about maybe reaching out to any of these companies that do this type of work, I mean, spraying trees, and
Well,
to see if they would be interested in
it's going to,
contracting?
yeah, it's going to cost you more, I'm sure, than what the state's going to do. Otherwise, they'd be doing it themselves. The state went to the program to have the county do it because they couldn't get people to do the work. So it's kind of where you're at.
Well, I don't see any harm in making the motion at this point. I mean,
Right.
it's not gonna cost us anything, and yeah, we are hopeful. So I'll make the motion to approve the Noxious Weed Control Cooperative Agreement with the Department of Agriculture for FY 2024.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it.
All right, thank you. The next item on your agenda is we're requesting approval of a cropland lease agreement for maintenance of the undeveloped portion of the village of Kennedyville. The HOA had asked us about being able to retain the contractor to take care of that land so it doesn't get overgrown and everything. In return, he has about 5 acres that he can plant on it, make use of it. So, it's Mr.
I'd make a motion to approve signing of the cropland lease agreement with Daniel McHenry for maintenance of the undeveloped land at the village of McHenry.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
Yes, sir.
Motion and a second, all in favor say aye. Aye, all opposed, the ayes have it.
And I do have the dollar if anybody needs it.
I probably owe him that much, so I'll take it.
All right, next item on your agenda is a motion to approve the Wharton Park LED lighting upgrade contract. There was a revision requested by Mosco to do that. 2 minor revisions, doesn't involve any change in contract amount or project costs, just related to warranties and notice on changes. So we have no problem with that, those changes with that. If you remember, this one includes like a 15, we'll be modifying it to a 25-year maintenance agreement, so.
I'll make a motion to approve the Wharton Park LED lighting upgrade contract dated May 9th, 2023, as revised on May 19th, 2023.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All opposed, the ayes have it.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is approval of a sewer allocation for single-family residents. Any additional allocations have to be approved by the commissioners, and we would follow it up with a public works agreement where they would pay the allocation fee. In this case, it's $11,800 for a sewer allocation for a single-family lot on Carter Avenue in the Spring Cove service area. We're recommending approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the sewer allocation for a lot at the location of tax map 0050, parcel 0115, lot 19.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor say aye. Aye, all opposed, the ayes have it.
Thank you. The last item I have on the agenda is requesting approval of a contract change order number 1 with Denali Water Solutions in the amount of $30,000 for removal of sludge solids from the aerobic digesters at the Wharton Wastewater Treatment Plant. As far as background, we'd originally awarded a contract with Denali for the removal of sludge from the plant lagoon number 1. That contract was based on a removal of 1,250 dry tons of material. Previously, when we looked into this project, we had another contractor came out to give a proposal, and they did a survey of the lagoon, doing probes to find out what the depth of it was and made estimates of that. That resulted in the award of the contract in the amount of $1,400,500. This is an ARPA project. The contractor, Denali, has finished up work on the lagoon, and our engineer has gone and checked the levels of the lagoon as far as sludge, feels the contract's complete. But we've only been able to needed to remove 610 tons. The contract amount is based on a certain amount of dollars per dry ton removal. So it's reduced that overall project. While they are still on site, we talked to them about the ability to remove 75 tons of sludge from the 2 plant digesters at Wharton. These tanks are usually constantly in some form of where they're allowing the sludge to settle or filling or aerating it to break it down. This will provide a unique opportunity for us to draw these tanks down completely and do an inspection of them. There's a lot of piping, aeration equipment that's in there. So we want to take advantage of that to look at the system and see if there's any repairs that we need to move, rusting pipes, spalling concrete and things like that. So it's a good opportunity to be able to do that, have that removed outside of the process so we can keep things running and look at it.
How did the project go as planned?
It went pretty good. It went good as far as us. The contractor ran into a lot of problems with wipes. It's a
What?
wipes. It's a big issue with a lot of places where people flush stuff down the toilet, and these wipes are supposed to be biodegradable,
They
and they're
claim
not.
to be flushable, but they're
Right.
really not. Yeah.
So the contractor would go in with the barge You'd go in and bring it up, and these wipes were usually on that first layer of the solids, would come up and it would clog up the pump. They tried a whole different mechanism for doing it. That didn't work. Finally, they had to beef up the pump to keep it from getting clogged, and were able to do that. Once they learned how to work through it, get that first one off, then they didn't have as much problems, but it caused them a lot of fits in terms of doing it. So,
And just for everybody, this is ARPA money, this isn't, that we have to spend. I mean, it was money that come from the government that was to repair and do infrastructure repairs and stuff. This really doesn't affect our general fund. This is.
that is
ARPA
correct.
money.
Yeah, and there's a timeline to complete the ARPA money. What we'd like to do, now that we've got some money, the cost for doing the lagoon removal was about $704,000 and some change. So we're looking for this one. Contractors agreed to use the same dry ton price, and the $30,000 is for doing the modifications to be able to draw it from the tanks. So we've done that. So that estimated cost of the additional work is $111,600. So you'll see the contract adds the $30,000, but we'll have another final change order that we call a rectifying change order that will adjust it to the actual expenses. So that'll actually be a reduction in the overall price from the contract price. As a result of that, we will allow remaining ARPA funds at $784,000, where we want to propose to use towards replacing the existing sludge press at Wharton. The survey or the study or process you get for the ARPA funds, that schedule that you get in your packets every time. Presently, we have about $200,000 left in ARPA funds. We had in there on the list wanting to replace the solids press that was shown in our capital budget. So we hope to be able to replace that press. The one that was there was a commercial type press, and we had a lot of problems with it, which resulted in bypassing the press and putting it in the lagoon. Getting the proper press in there that's specifically designed for removing these solids, that will help us prevent sludge going into the lagoon, so we don't have to revisit this thing and get it out. So that's what we'd like to utilize the rest of those ARPA funds for.
The 200,000 in addition to the whatever?
Yeah, the press is, we had a test unit come out to the site, ran it while we were doing the project. We've gotten a quote for them. The press unit itself is around $370,000. I mean, there's some installation. It's pretty much a can unit. We're taking out the old press, putting the new one in. We'll need some, a little bit of engineering for as far as the tie-ins for electrical and all that stuff. But we feel we can do that within the budget with our ARPA money. And again, if we've got something left, we've talked about Kent Pump Station, which is under design.
Right.
So we can put the rest of them funds towards those two
I was
projects.
hoping that there would be some, I mean, it looks like to me, with the math, there will be some left.
Right. And the original goal when we were doing the budget was not knowing where we are here financially, it's working out, but to try to get the designs for both the press and the pump station completed, and then go chase after some grant money that might be out there.
We knew it would, that's why we
Did
did
we?
what we did.
Okay, thank you. So we're looking for approval of that change order number 1 now.
I'll make a motion to approve change order number 1 in the amount of $30,000 for the removal of sludge from the Wharton wastewater treatment plant digesters under an existing contract with Denali Water Solutions.
Second?
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Before you go, the stormwater drainage easement that you can't be is not signed by one of the property owners.
She is deceased.
Okay, then we need to reference.
Yeah, I'm going to need help with that. Unfortunately, I found that out when we met out at the site.
Yeah.
Old gentleman, I don't know if Al knows him.
Yeah. If you can find out from Mr. Payne when
Can I see
Mrs. Payne died. Because what I usually do when I have an easement, when you have property owners on the deed of record and one is deceased, put an explanatory sentence in there saying, so-and-so died upon her death, title, vested in the surviving.
Yeah, if you can, whatever wording you want to get on there, but I didn't know how to handle that with that.
Yeah, just if you get that, just let me know.
It was a sweet old gentleman we met out there at Clark Road. Nice guy,
He's the nicest.
yeah.
And I'm assuming that his mother, who I just knew briefly, was named Jean because his wife is still very much alive and her name
Oh,
is
is it
Jean
really?
as well.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
well, good. Well, I wonder why, I mean, he was pretty old there. I don't know how old she is. I mean, I don't want to put it, but he was,
Yeah.
He was 83 years old.
okay.
Just a title searcher, somebody looking at would question the validity
Oh, I
of
agree with
it
you.
with a blank space on that without any explanation.
Okay, I got the impression, talking to the other gentleman that was there, that she had passed away, so.
If you could find out the date when she passed.
Well, if she didn't, then we could
Well,
go
if she's
visit
still
her house.
alive, then we have to have her son.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you want me to take care of that?
You want to find out if she's dead or alive?
Well, I know Miss Jean's alive. I could call her right now. But if you'd like, I could
Two
take
Gs.
this.
Oh, if she is alive, take that and get her to sign
That
it.
would be great, yes. Okay, that'd be good. Appreciate it. Glad I mentioned it.
I'll pay his wife.
Oh, I can't wait to tell her. He sees me every day on Sundays in church, and he says, first thing he tells me is, everything is okay in Coleman's Corner, so you tell the other two we're A-okay.
All right, Shelley, you want to take Rosemary's
I was gonna
spot?
say, do you want me to be Rosie, Jamie, or Shelley first?
Whichever one you want.
Let's start with Rosie. Rosie has two modifications to existing contracts. These are two of her programmatic initiatives for the year. The interagency, Children's Cabinet Interagency Fund has given some extra money to add to the two initiatives. Let's take the first one on the agenda first. This is the one for Maneri's Dream Alliance. The Children's Cabinet Interagency Fund is adding $9,989 to the total funding of the project. This will expand programming. To clarify, this is FY '23 funding and initiatives, and this will be able to allow MBA to do an overnight camping trip at Echo Hill with the children.
I'll make a motion to approve the amendment to the memorandum of agreement with Maneri's Dream Alliance.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it.
Okay, the second one is an amendment to the Finley House Global contract. This is adding $18,000. $14,536 is coming from the Children's Cabinet Interagency Fund, and $3,464 is coming from existing funding on the LMB budget. There are no additional dollars with this request. So $18,000 would be added to this contract, which will allow them additional June programming of an interactive mental health summit.
I'll make a motion to approve the Finley House Global Contract Amendment.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it.
Now for Jamie. Jamie has two items on the agenda as well. The first is a budget adjustment. She would like to rearrange her budget by $15,000. She is not requesting new money. The reason it is coming to you for a request is because she would like to request money from personnel into operating, and that requires commissioner approval. Excuse me. There are a number of small budget adjustments included in this $15,000. There's not one thing that in particular that could be pointed to as the leading cause. It is just rearranging her budget as time went on throughout FY '23.
And there's overtures because of vacant positions.
Correct, that's right.
I'll make a motion to approve reallocation of $15,000 from salaries and benefits to operating within the Economic and Tourism Development Departmental budget.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it.
Terrific. And finally, for Jamie, she has a vacancy on her Economic and Tourism Development Commission, and this is due to a retirement of a Miss Tracy Williams. So Tracy will also, she's not required to step off of this board due to her retirement, but she is going to truly retire according to her. So she is stepping down from some of her community engagements. So attached, you have a list of a number of folks that have submitted interest forms, and Jamie is recommending approval of the candidate to the labor board.
I think Commissioner Nickerson had asked about come up with a name of someone some time ago, and we'd like to present that.
Yeah, and this is no.
You don't have to mention the name.
No, I won't, but I just want to say that this has nothing to do with the candidate that was moved forward, but this is one that I had inquired, or asked about. So-
Candidate number 14.
Correct, yes. I make a motion to appoint candidate number 14 to the Economic and Tourism Development Commission.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it.
And I know we've
Now we're down to,
we've zipped around, but I don't want to lose sight of Mr. Yeager's item for the district court contract renewal.
After a few years of negotiation and going back and forth and having our public works director review various things and our prior county engineer review things and the county administrator and I going over and over stuff with the state, the back and forth and the back and forth, we now have a lease that's acceptable to all, and we recommend that you sign it. This is for the district court in our courthouse.
I'll make a motion to approve the item of the lease for 5 years and subject to Section 7 of the State of Maryland Lease General Terms and Conditions set forth in Addendum A, shall commence on July 1st, 2023.
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it.
Now I can be me if you'd like me to.
Huh?
I can be me if you'd like me to.
Yeah, be you.
Okay, wonderful. So Wendy Keene from the Kent County Public Schools has reached out. There is a committee called the Local Interagency Coordinating Council, and they are seeking a commissioner to sit as one of the members to be appointed to this council. The time involved approximately is about 1 hour per quarter. They have quarterly meetings, dates to be determined. So
I was going to say, I met, or I didn't meet, but when you and the sheriff and Ronnie were trying to fleece the governor, I attended the graduation. And Wendy had said something to me about this while I was there, and I told her that I would do it, provided you guys were okay with that.
So I'll make a motion to appoint
And I'll second that.
to sit, wait a minute, to serve as the
I
county
wouldn't do it
representative,
before he changed his mind.
to serve as the county representative on the Local Interagency Coordinating Council.
I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it.
And finally, the Ethics Commission, we have a term that has expired, and we are recommending appointment of the member listed.
I'll make a motion to appoint the current member to serve on the Ethics Commission for 3 years.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. And Dan's done. So now we're down to County Administrator Report.
It's 2 o'clock, we're getting there, right? So this is simply a report out of the constant yield property tax rate notice, and this is just a requirement of the state. No action necessary.
All right. Now we're, time for public comment or media review. Any questions, comments? There being none, we do have a closed session, at least one. Two, excuse me, two closed sessions.
I'll make a motion to go into closed session to discuss three matters under the Annotated Code of Maryland, General Provisions, Article 3-305B. One, to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, or any other personal matter that affects one or more specific individuals. And four, to consider a matter that concerns the proposal for a business or industrial organization to locate, expand, or remain in the state respectively. Two separate matters will be discussed. Matter number one, personnel matters specific to adding or eliminating job position qualifications and compensation of individuals' positions. And matter number two, business proposal from an entity looking to start a business within the county limits.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. We will go into closed session.
Good night, sir.